only humility can respond to the frequency of what's calling it.
Exactly.
And this is really important.
And because that means you're also teachable.
Absolutely. So Strong's 8666 ties to Manasseh in Strong's number. But again, if we're talking about everything, and I'll ask this question, if everything is all, then is all everything?
Well, it's kind of a rhetorical question,
It
right?
points to itself.
Right.
Because how can we separate, if we have right perspective and right measure, and the construct was created by all source, father, grandfather, grandflower, and then everything in this, based on association and proximity to father source, and the frequency thereof, everything resonates to all.
All.
So I can attach 866 to new beginnings of the power of 8 through the cycle to becoming, and it means teshuvah, to return, and it also means answer.
Yeah.
So the new beginnings is through returning, you become the answer. It means a place of time. Really cool stuff. So you become the answer to your question.
In time.
In time.
Which is the whole reason why time is here.
Right. So we'd be, no, I'm not going to go into all of this, but we'd be greatly benefited if we looked into all the occurrences of the fish gate.
Oh, of course.
Because it is the gate that is the lowliest state on the low end of the temple, but it's how you enter lowly to establish that is what is within.
Yeah.
And so we're coming lowly into the fish gate, and it's where they went to service the priests, right? And so it's interesting that
Well, but that would make sense because noon, if that's related to fish, the priests were the ones that were going to have the spiritual path in order to connect to those that were in the material world so they could find the spiritual path.
absolutely.
Right? Noon vav noon.
Yeah.
Noon vav noon sofit.
Yeah. I'm just taking it. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just connecting that with fish and noon
Yeah.
and the fish gate and the priests.
So we know that. So we have to connect though, because we're talking a lot of metaphors, yet still bringing the construct of reality in here through what we're seeing through the script. And this is you're going to go A, B, C on this probably because there's going to be a lot in here. But so I'm looking at what's the journey. The journey's to the Aleph Tav. The fish going upstream to return back are answering through the frequency of humility that can only be found through the journey of the Aleph Tav. From the Bet Tav, we already know that there's establishment of measure, because daughter is also defined as measure of intention that would produce the Aleph as one. So let's break down Aleph Tav really quick here. I just turned off the heater. So humility is the frequency, a consent that allows one to journey between the 22 pieces of the translatable mark. Now, I just spoke the definition of the Aleph Tav.
Exactly.
The Aleph Tav.
Yep.
But we know humility allows you to open up to journey between the Aleph Tav.
Right.
Because that's the way. So if we open it up, you can see that there's a morphology in the Aleph Tav, and it's Aleph Vav Tav. And so if we have humility, we can journey between them because that's what the Vav represents. So one may become the meek definition. So humility is the frequency of consent that allows one to journey between the 22 pieces of the untranslatable mark of the Aleph Tav. Now it's untranslatable, but you journey between so you can become the meek definition of spirituality's intention.
Yeah.
Because it's the Vav is now full. So now you have become the definition of the Aleph Tav, which was no longer able to be Why is it not translatable? Because no one has journeyed between it to become it in the beginning. It's in the beginning, the Aleph Tav.
Right. Better sheet. In the beginning, way at Tashamin.
Right.
Yeah.
Separate the pieces, now go between it. So it's telling you right away that the journey is through that.
And then when you do that, when it's filled up, you become a sign, signal, beacon, and miracle.
So now this is a being of monumental, I'm only speaking definition here.
Right.
This is now a being of monumental proportion that stands as a gatekeeper to the sovereign evidence that bears witness to mother and father's sine wave.
Absolutely.
Now I'm saying these words specifically because these definitions are right in its own word, that you have become evidence. You are now a testimony and a witness, giving evidence to mother and father.
So our summation of our being is evidence that they exist.
Absolutely. You are now a beacon, prodigy, evidence, a mark, and a miracle.
That is so amazing, because you have so many people that are questioning whether or not there is an existence of something greater than us.
Right.
And the very fact that we become is that evidence to prove that they exist, because we become I am. And there's no other way to do it unless they exist. Unless they calling out to us, and unless they present themselves to us in a form and a fashion so we can become in the likeness of, then how would anybody ever know that they are truly out there?
Absolutely. This is what we're doing.
Dang.
So now haven't lost sight of why we started this little sidetrack journey.
The river.
No, the river. So let's go Nahar. So now, because we've consented to be here, this is, and it says really in Strong's 2225, all of Vav Tav
with the Sharuk.
With the Sharuk,
yeah.
It still is impartial filling.
Right.
That means we've given consent to the journey.
Yeah, because the definition of that word means to assent.
Assent.
Which means you consented to come.
Right. You've assent, but even assent is still tethered. You've assented to come. You've agreed to ascend.
Right.
It's contractual. You've agreed. You've already come down here to agree to this contractual language.
You've decided to come down to the lowest place that you possibly can
Sheol.
go. Sheol. So you can find your way out by asking questions.
So you could wrestle Satan in the basket.
Right. Right.
The tet.
Right.
So you could choose between the adversarial component and the frequency that would produce the greater intention of assent.
Right. So as you are in the place where you need to ask questions, because that's what Sheol means.
Humility.
You are going to the houses.
Yeah.
Bayit Anath, the house of replies.
Yeah.
Because those who've already done it.
Yeah.
Can tell you how to do it.
I hope you have a good teacher around you.
Yeah.
So now let's go to Nahar, because Nahar, first occurrence, let's go to 5102, stream. And that is Nun He Resh.
Yep.
So now we have the risen nature of revelation will produce the headstone. You can say it another way. Rise in revelation for this will produce the headstone. And this is through the stream. But again, we need to move beyond stream as water, because again, even though the vision was water, I can only relate to the vision based on where I was.
But you were also talking about that place, that Amna and Abna is a mountain.
It's a mountain. So it's tethered in.
Har.
So it's tuned into, you're going upstream.
Right.
But again, this word, it means to sparkle and to flow, to be lightened.
Right.
So it's tethering the stream as a radiant stream of energy traveling in a straight line.
Hello, sent to the rose.
Sent to the rose. This is where it's coming from.
Got it.
If anyone wants to listen to that, they can now tether to where that was extracted. Because to flow down, you need to flow up. To become light, you need to resonate to the frequency of the progressional measure of light.
Right.
And this is how you come down as Lamed Yerushalayim.
Leorsham.
Leorsham.
Yep.
Okay. So the occurrences, 5102, stream. 5102A, to flow, to stream. 51, let me see, there's a B in there. Let me see. I guess I didn't put the B in there. It doesn't really matter because I know it's to do with water. But let's go to Nahar again, because we've already said that the first one, the stream, is tethered to be lightened. And then we can go to 5105, Nahar Ah. So now we have mountain, Har.
Right.
Hey Resh.
Right.
And then it's Hey Noon. And it means a light, daylight.
Well, isn't that just amazing?
Yep.
So daylight, you are revealed as daylight while you're in the flesh.
And remember, through the shadow of death, you are overshadowed by the darkness of mother and father, which is really meta language of you are being lit in the likeness. Through the overshadowing, through the walk of dark, you become white. Because you're being consumed, everything that's dark is being consumed to reveal the ash heap, to see pure essence of plasma light. This is what we're doing into sublimation, into ionization. Right?
Yeah.
So let's go, let's tie it in again. So that's 5105, light, daylight. 5104, it's the same, it's Noon, Hey Resh, and it means a stream and a river. and it also means prosperity. So, and it also means to cross the river. This ties into the word abar, a region across. So it's ayin bet resh.
Eber.
Eber, right.
Which is the root for Hebrew,
Right.
the Hebrew language.
So,
Hebrew.
and if anyone wants to look, you can see Genesis 2:10. Now a river flowed out of Eden.
Yeah.
All right. So we filled up your nahar, and I think it's interesting too because we can. It in the vision it was not really. It was a stream. It was more about stream brook. So I can bring in brook into this too because this is important too because brook is nakal, which is nun het
lamed.
nun het lamed, right?
Yeah.
So now we have risen in the brotherhood of light.
But isn't that also the word for inheritance?
It's also the word for inheritance.
Woo! So the spiritual path that we choose to take, where we separate ourselves from those who are in versus those who are outside of the covenant,
Yep.
is by going through the teachers of light.
Yep. So the
And
stream.
that's how we receive our inheritance.
So if you answer the call, you're
Yeah.
going back to again, and no, we know that what we're sharing is like because we have many visions of going back to Dealey Plaza,
Right,
going back the right path
right.
of commerce, the way of commerce, to establish right the way of the heel, turning the head. So you're now the head that has the heel pressing in on those to really cause them the affliction, so they would too turn
Right.
to become the head. But yes,
Which is ana. You were sharing that the other day about ana also being the word for affliction
absolutely.
because it produces an outcome.
Absolutely. And it's just a higher level of frequency comprehending that.
Yeah.
If you take the spooky out of it, you realize it's all to produce a nature.
Because it's a catalyst.
So Nicole, it says a brook, and it also means a stream, especially a winter torrent, and we know that Niagara Fall means torrent or flood. Okay, so we're tethering that together. And it also means a narrow valley in which a brook runs, also a shaft of a mine. So again, it's a hollow, and there's a lot in the hollow. We're not going there right now, but the hollow needs to be filled up.
But I like the fact that it's a shaft of a mine
Right.
because we are doing what? We're excavating
Yep.
and we're digging for gold.
Yep. But this is also, we're creating hollow ground. So possession, the portion, this is all estate language, inheritance, very cool stuff, very cool stuff.
Are we going to go back to the...
Well, we are. We're going to go back to that verse. I know. That's what I'm saying. You opened a can of worms, and we're going to go there. So I wanted to bring this forward too. The same spelling for Nakal, Nakala, is the inheritance and possession. But there's another word rooting out similar to this, and it's Nakalal, and it means the valley of God. And it's the same spelling, Nun Het Lamed, Yod Aleph Lamed.
Oh, that is really cool.
So, walking in the valley of God. Again, the place, and it's called a place in the desert.
So that where we walk is where we get our inheritance that empowers us to be an Aleph Lamed, to be a strong teaching shepherd.
Yes. Two occurrences of that word,
Yeah?
but both occurrences are in the same verse. And it's in Numbers 21:19. And it's, you can look at it, but it's talking about, it's a whole nother thing here, but it's talking about the matah gift. So you're given the staff, the gift of the staff, the mem tav nun, while you're in the flesh, you're given the revelation
The
of
matan.
this. The matan, right?
Well, and that's what the bridegroom gives the bride before the wedding, aka what we would call an engagement ring.
So you're given
a staff.
You're given the inheritance. It's right in here. So you're given in the valley of God, in the winter torrent, you are given the portion of inheritance, and it's twice over, double portion.
Of course it would be. Well, because you're really receiving engagement rings of mother and father to be wed to both of them.
And you'll like this because what you're given, there's only 4 words in this, and it's the last part. You're given this in Nahalal, twice, and then it's Bamuth. You built death.
Yeah.
So it's called the high place. So you are given this in the top of the waterfalls. You're given this, and it's the Bet Mem Vav Tav.
Right. So you are dying to self as you build.
Yes.
So You're vanquishing the beast.
You're vanquishing the beast by reaching the top of the falls.
Exactly.
And it roots out to 1116 and actually even roots out at 1168 Baal. You have now
Husband.
become the husband, the owner, the master.
That's right, because you become the master of self. It's self-mastery.
And you also know that that's tied to entitled to 1166, which means to rule and to marry over. You now have
Exactly.
dominion. This is the turning of principalities and powers.
Exactly, because we become the principalities and powers on top of the mountain because we overstand it.
Rah, rah,
Woo!
rah. Okay, now let's get back to what took me on an amazing journey.
Yeah, but it was worth it.
It was
worth
worth
it.
it.
So
Okay.
we know what our inheritance is.
Really
It's
good.
flipping the principalities and powers so that we become the self-masters.